Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy For Now. It's me Isabel here with a fun video for you today. I was scrambling for a video idea because my original plan kind of got punted down the road a little because reasons. You'll get that video eventually, but my members were like, can you do hot takes? And I was like, absolutely. So I posted to them and to y'all, like as far as my public viewership goes, a form that you could fill out with hot takes. I got over 50. Over 50. So I sorted them. I was gonna read them like fresh, but I was like, I have to sort these because there's gonna be repeats, and there were repeats, which is fine. I love that so many of us agreed on some things, right? So there were some repeats, so I sorted them and grouped them. And I also have my takes because I'm not going to ask you to give me your hot takes without me also sharing my hot takes, because I think that's important. Like, there's a give and take here. So I'm very excited to go through these. I have them ranked from tame to a little heat and then spicy, as in these are some hot takes. I also have a really funny one for you that was purposely submitted as a joke, but let's dive right in, because honestly, these are so good, some of them, and I love it. Okay, first up. Modern versions of historical romance hit different than a true bodice ripper pre-2000. And I agree, and I like both for different reasons. So I think that one's pretty fair. I don't like deckled edges. So those are the like cut edges on books. I don't disagree. Those deckled edges can be really annoying, I think. Next. Sometimes TikTok book girlies are too focused on the spice of a book. They should just go discover erotica if that's really all they want to talk about. I agree. And I feel like what they think is spicy sometimes, I'm just like, okay, this is not that big a deal, nor that big a thing, but okay, that's fine. We all have different lines. And I do agree. I think they probably should try reading some actual erotica. They might have a good time. This one is so accurate. I'm increasingly more wary about reading books by white men. So many of them turn out to be abusers and rapists. I've been not reading cis straight white men for a long time. I read a handful for a lot of reasons. And yeah, 100%. It feels like we just constantly get bad news. It annoys me how many books take their titles from Taylor Swift songs. Same. I'm not a Swiftie. And I think even if you are a Swiftie, it's just kind of, to me, it feels cheap sometimes. Next. I think this one is really funny, personally, and fair, because the person who submitted it, I understand why they feel this way. The annotating trend, be it for aesthetics or not, is ridiculous. You're not in a university English class. Stop cosplaying like you are. Fair. I think I find annotating, if you're not doing like an in-depth video essay type thing, interesting, or if you're not annotating like a favorite book, interesting. Like, I just don't really get the point personally, but fair. All right, here's our first lumped together section. ACOTAR's fine, fun, but just fine. And then someone else submitted that Sarah J. Maas may not be the best author, but honestly, the books aren't as bad as people pretend they are. And I think both of these are valid. I think she's an entry point for a lot of people, and there's reasons that's good and bad. There's reasons that she's good at, her books are good and bad, but like, they're definitely just fine. They serve their purpose, and hopefully they bring you to read other better and even funner books. Okay, the next one was one that I was debating if it belongs in tame or a little bit of heat, because it is very true, and I think people need to be able to do both, right? So people, the death of media literacy and critical thinking has really hurt the book community, and I agree, because I think a lot of the like romance conversations we have are very cyclical and repetitive, right? But I also think a lot of people's immediate defense to anyone critiquing the genre is, how dare you? And like, it's very baseline, and we're not investigating some of the issues we do have, which I do think if you are in the community and you care, you are seeing those conversations and you're in those conversations, right? Like, where we are discussing the issues within romance as a genre and things that need adjusting and fixed and addressing issues. But people who don't value popular fiction because it's popular are snobs. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I don't understand why some audiobooks don't have the mouth sounds edited out. It's gross and annoying. And I haven't experienced this in a while, thank God. And I don't know if I don't notice them as much because I listen at a higher speed. Thank goodness. But this would drive me nuts. I would not be able to handle it. Okay, this one ties into one of my hot takes. Slow readers need to STFU, so shut the fuck up, and stop complaining. It's not a morality test, so stop acting like it is. Absolutely. Most prestigious award-winning books are insufferable. Agreed. While not for me, I love how excited people are for Onyx Storm. I love the release parties that are happening for it. Absolutely. I didn't read the second book, and I don't know if I'll read all of that series or not. I haven't really decided yet how I feel. Fourth Wing was fine. I just don't know if I care enough to continue. But I do love seeing release parties for popular titles. I think it's really fun. I think it's just a nice little surprise for people. to get to, you know, have that. And I just feel like it's something we don't get a lot anymore. Most celebrities don't need to write a memoir. Looking at you, Priyanka Chopra. I don't disagree. I feel like a lot of celebrity memoirs are unnecessary. The next two takes I feel like are very like sensory related to an extent. So first up is I hate covers that are weird soft paper velvet texture. They're the stainless steel fridge of the book world. Immediate fingerprints you can't really get off. And like, that's fair. I don't disagree. Those are ones that I like to buy brand new and get in perfect condition and just like put on my shelf and not touch again. Sprayed edges on a paperback feel silly, which I can see that. I don't mind them. It doesn't bother me either way, but I feel like at the same time it can feel kind of silly for a like initial release. But it's just how people are trying to like market that first print, first run, make people buy a thing, right? Okay, now on to the indie versus trad. So one person said indie romance is better than trad pub romance. I don't disagree. I read a lot of both. Like I said, last year I feel like I didn't read enough indie / a lot of indie got picked up. And I think that's why indie is getting picked up more, is a lot of people really are liking what indie authors are doing and traditional publishers are noticing more and more. And then somebody else said a lot of trad pub books and media in general that is released nowadays is very mid at best. I feel like a lot of books are the same with very generic storytelling that doesn't engage. Comp titles are used without really looking at it at the source material or the new material and just slapped on for marketing purposes. Many of the newer releases in the synopsis already do not draw me in because they all seem to want to recreate old hits without delivering something new or worthwhile to the reader. In that same vein, a lot of stories do not actually stick the landing in that there is a lot of trope usage without depth and characterizations. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore tropes, and oftentimes they're done very shallowly without consideration to the actual plot. I find that because of this, I am less and less interested in trad pub books every year. Note, I'm mostly talking about romance, fantasy, and romantasy here, because that's what I read. And I don't think you're wrong. I think the tropification as a marketing tool for every single book is not a good thing. And I have a point that kind of ties into this when we get to my hot takes also. Because yeah, I agree. Like, we are marketing off of tropes and not the actual story in any way. So like, you're not telling me why this is different than a book I've read with these exact same tropes. Because that's like the joy of romance and this genre, in my opinion, is that yes, it's things we know, it's things we love, it's things we've already enjoyed, but the way each author puts their spin on them makes them unique and more enjoyable. This one I feel like is an outside of the community hot take and an in-community not hot take, which is reading about unlawful, socially unacceptable, or mentally unhealthy behavior in a book doesn't mean the author thinks it's okay, nor does it make the reader more likely to do it. And I agree with the caveat of like racist things in a book that are put there and not addressed as racism, if that makes sense. So like the Kate Stewart situation that happened a few years ago, like that's not okay, right? Something that's going to be in this month's Romancelandia on Sunday. That is racism. That is not addressed on page. And that's when I get worried that, you know, that's when the concern is that an author does endorse a thing. But like, just because you write a serial killer romance doesn't mean you're like pro serial killers, you know? Like, that's kind of 101. People that complain every second day about people that read a lot need to touch grass. You don't see that when someone is talking about how many hours of video games or TV they watch, and that is very telling to me. And I agree. Reading is viewed as a hobby that is less than often, because it's not that men don't read, because men do read. There are plenty of men and non-women presenting people that read books, but it is viewed by much of society as a female hobby. And again, I don't love the gendered language of this, but there's no other way for me to explain it, right? And I think because of that, like, often the romance genre, it's viewed as like less than, because that's what they spend their time doing. I agree with the next two. Also, I hate illustrated covers, especially for romance. I just feel like with people on the cover, I know what I'm getting into. And I agree. I mean, I have a whole video where I talk about why I think the language of romance covers has been lost and is being destroyed, basically, with illustrated covers to some extent. But on that same note, I think you are lying to yourself if you think adult illustrated covers look the same as young adult and middle grade and children's illustrated covers, because they don't. Like, they don't. I don't think the example everyone uses is the best example of this, but I just think it's pretty easy to tell. Next, the last Tame one. Dog-earing pages isn't a bad thing. It's like having the spine cracked. It looks used and well-loved. And I don't disagree. If it's your personal copy, do what you will with it. I could care less. It's different if it's not your copy. But if it's your copy, go for it. Buckle up, y'all. Time for a little heat. A little heat on these hot takes. These are the ones I'm very excited about. The spicy ones, though, some of y'all really said I have a hot take and I have to share it. And I appreciate you trusting me with that. Social media should not determine solely what you read. Librarians and booksellers can give unique recs that can be new favorites. And I agree. Absolutely. I love getting recs from outside the norm spaces. And it's important. I love reading like the tags at the bookstore even to pick up a new thing. You don't have to read every new shiny book. Backlist books are full of amazing reads. Again, I think this is a little spicy because I think people forget how much backlist exists and how much good backlist titles there are. Backlist being any book that wasn't published the same year or is like more than a year old, we'll say. And I just love picking up those titles sometimes. I think it can be really invigorating to see where a genre was at that time and where we are now, and just kind of see some of the parallels too, because that's a thing that you will get when you read older titles. If it takes more than 25% of the book to get into the premise listed in the synopsis, an instant 2 stars. And 100%, 25% of any book, no matter the length, and we're not like getting into what you tell me is in the synopsis, I'm out. I like this take and I don't disagree. And I do think there's caveats here on how people talk about it, because I've had seen discussions around this genre that make a lot of sense to me too. I can tell when someone doesn't like monster romance because they struggle and can't imagine loving someone that doesn't look a particular way. And I don't disagree. I think it's also a thing where, like, I've seen between Black people and other people of color discussing how monster romances sometimes take stereotypes around their communities and apply them to monsters and then make them desirable, but like those same people won't pick up romances by those authors. And I think that's interesting too. And I think I see both sides. Like, I see this because, yeah, you have to be able to imagine someone that is not a certain way. But yeah, I don't disagree. Miscommunication in romance novels is unfairly maligned. Yes, communication would solve a lot of problems, but there needs to be conflict in romance, and most real people are not great communicators, or maybe not a great communicator about things that they are self-conscious about. I'm thinking about things like class difference in romance, money, etc. Especially there are times miscommunication is poorly used, but it definitely is necessary in romance, depending on the conflict/plot of the story. This ties into one of my hot takes, I also agree, and I think we are pretending like everyone has it so together in life, and we do not, and we are all not fantastic communicators always. That's just life. Part of me was intrigued by TikTok possibly going away because the popular on TikTok books are almost always just awful, not to mention usually straight and white. Fair. I have some TikTok hot takes for you. Also, backlist. A lot of popular TikTok titles are older, which I find fascinating. I hate how normal it's become for characters to be instantly so attracted to their love interest. This overwhelming physical response is lazy writing and also not very reflective of reality, and actually contributes to people feeling left out, which isn't what romance is supposed to do. I don't disagree. I think instant lust is often over-relied upon in romance books, and I think that's why a lot of people love that more like enemies are disliked to lovers setup, because like you might be like, oh, they're kind of attractive, or I hate them, and then like you find them more attractive as you hate them less, right? Red Tower has produced a few good books. It's not all garbage. What books? I would like a list, please and thank you. You don't have to out yourself down below, but I'm just playing. Another hot take that I also have but didn't write down is Emily Henry is only popular because of the women who think they aren't like other girls because they don't read romance. Agreed. Emily Henry is romance for the lit fic girls, for the girls who don't want to read a full-blown romance. But I will say you can tell Emily Henry does like the romance genre in her books, and I appreciate that because I don't feel like they're being written by someone who hates the genre and is writing books for that audience. I feel like they like the genre and are writing books that they want to write. Okay, I think this one's going to be really interesting. I'm very curious to hear people's reactions to this. Abby Jimenez, while great, is race fishing a little bit by publishing under her married name. And I could see this. I adore her books, but I had to investigate when I started reading her to figure it out. And, you know, we've seen her be placed on tables at Barnes and things like that for Latin Heritage Month. And yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. So it's interesting. Contemporary romance is too obsessed with male main characters who are assholes and or rude. Like it's overtaking the genre to a detriment. It's the boys are mean to you because they like you toxic thing. Aren't we past that? And I agree. I feel like it's like a dark romance thing kind of. And it's invaded every contemporary romance space, and it can be frustrating. But also, like, I don't want every hero to be mean and like that. That's just boring. Next, we have authors and readers need to learn the difference between sex and gender. For writers, this is particularly offensive as words are their business. And I don't disagree. I think it's such a hard... This I think ties into another conversation that I'm not fully equipped to have, but I think is happening in spaces, and I love reading people having this conversation to learn more. So I think this is a bit of a spicy take, but not fully spicy, because I do think it's true. And I think gender essentialism and language like that is very hard to realize you're using and hard to unpack. And I think it's an issue that when people get called out on, they feel really insecure because they are trying so hard and they think a call in is a call out. And their reaction is like defensive because they're trying already and like it's not enough and like they haven't taken the full steps. And I think it's okay to have that initial reaction, but you need to not like have that reaction back to a person. And then you need to sit with it and like take the learning, right? And learn to grow because it's okay. No one is going to be perfect. We cannot exist as perfect human beings. That's impossible. We are all going to make mistakes. We all have to learn language changes and things like that and all of that goes into this. So yeah, I just think it just ties a lot into some of that. Amazon has never truly been a bookstore. They tried it and thought they were better than that. So they have never truly been a bookstore. I don't disagree. I think Amazon currently, as far as books go, it's a lost leader for them / a place for indie authors to more affordably print their books because my understanding on the cost of things like Ingram Sparks for printing is very high and they don't make hardly anything and they don't make a ton on Amazon either. So I don't disagree. Only doing negative content around popular books is a really sucky thing to do. It's okay to like what a lot of people like. And I don't disagree. And I think this is a two-sided coin thing where this is a hard one because I think there's a lot of value in critique, right? And criticism and learning why people don't like a thing. But I also think it can feel really weird if all you ever see from someone is like hate on a genre you love. And that may not be all they post, but that may be all the algorithm serves you of them. So that may be what it feels like is all they post. So that's fair. This next one is a big conversation I've been having with a lot of people and a lot of people that just in my life and in my Discord and all over the place, I've had this conversation. So I'm going to summarize all 3 of these because I got 3 of them. But basically, you've got to stop putting your Harry Potter house in your damn bios and in things on the internet. If you want to consider yourself an ally or in any way a safe space, and I'm using quotation marks because you don't get to call yourself those things. Those have to be given to you by the people in that community, and you shouldn't just like run around saying you're an ally. Like, we've had this conversation repeatedly in the bookish community, but people still want to pretend they're claim that they can call themselves that without being labeled it by someone else. But yeah, like same thing also in this was like including it in books as like a cutesy throwback and all this stuff. It's like, let it go. If you care about people that are being actively harmed by JKR, then you need to not talk about her books. You need to not talk about her fics publicly online. You need to be part of the solution, which is not allowing that woman to make any more money. If you don't care, then go forth. Be free. But don't be mad when people don't want to associate with you. Because it's just, you are still going to be actively doing harm to the communities that you are trying to say that you're safe for by doing these things. If you want to do it in private and like read the books, whatever, I guess. I still think it does harm. If you already own the things, less harm. But like, you have to be conscious of how that is going to make you look to other people. And this even ties back to a bookstore that opened, and 4 out of the 6 people in there Meet the bookstore employees had their Harry Potter house in their bios, and my desire to visit this bookstore eventually waned because I didn't love that. But yeah, I just think it's really weird. It's really weird, and we've known about this for a long time. It's not 2015 anymore. And I'm not saying there weren't issues and we didn't know issues, but I'm saying like the issues with this author are so widespread and known that we should just be letting it go. And there's so many better fantasy books in that age group now. Okay, our special editions roundup of hot takes. I loved these. These made me laugh. Buying special editions of books you haven't read and don't know if you will even like is a waste of money. Book boxes are never worth the money. Buy the book after you know you like it. People spending over $40 on a book they've never read is insane. And then it's fine to resell special edition books if someone spent the money on it and someone else is willing to buy it. That's just an unfortunate side effect of capitalism. I agree with all of these. I don't do any book boxes for this reason. I'm terrified of just sitting on books I don't want. I have purchased special editions from people that I wanted and from places like that one website that does all those fancy books. I don't know. One of those. I've gotten those for gifts. Like, that's fine. But it's like books I love. And I've had friends gift me special editions and I love that and I love having them. But if I really love a book, I'm going to seek out buying it. Now I will say I am guilty. I did order Deep End's special edition from Stimulant because I wanted the wet cover name, and I figure if I don't like it, I can probably resell it, so that's fine. If I do like it, then great, I have it. But I'm also never opposed to like reselling a book I have if I don't want it or like it. All right, let's move on to our spicy hot takes. This is the shortest section because I didn't feel like a lot of these were that spicy, but a couple of them, wow. Y'all, wow. Okay, first up, we're gonna start with the meanest one. And my request, as I tell you this, is don't tell me, people, in the comments. I will hide your comment / delete it, because we don't need to be mean in the comments here. This is just supposed to be a fun, goofy, silly time. But this hot take, I feel this way about certain people on Book Talk, so there's that. There are some booktubers, book talkers, etc., who are just not smart, and I don't disagree. It happens, and I feel that way about people in all sorts of communities, so like, fair. But again, please don't tell me who you're feeling this about in the comments. That's mean. We have a nonfiction hot take, 2 of them in fact, and I think these are so accurate. There are too many popular nonfiction books that aren't written by experts who then profit off the largely unpaid labor of experts. And then also, some nonfiction books could just be a blog post, and I don't disagree on either of these things. Another spicy take, which I think some people are going to heavily agree with, and some people are going to be like, absolutely not. And I can kind of see this. I do think she has a thing she loves, and she does those things very well and repeatedly. And that is, sometimes Katie Robert is too repetitive in her story beats and structure. Yeah, I can see that. I think Dark Olympus series is probably her least repetitive of them all, but that's fair. This take, okay, I did find out where. So this is at a store in Ontario, Canada. I cannot tell you the store or anything else, but when I read you this, I put this in spicy because it's so very specific and so very silly, and it made me giggle. The guy who owns my local indie bookstore walks far too loudly and quickly for the space, and it disproportionately bothers me. And I was like, this is okay, fair. So, I don't know, maybe one of you knows what store it is. I just know where it is. And then the last hot take, the spicy of spicy takes, I think for a lot of people, is that Babel was not good. I haven't read Babel. I have no opinion on this, but I feel like that is a take a lot of people would get upset about. So, fair. Okay, and then we have one silly one. So we were on Members Friends for like 6 hours yesterday, hanging, goofing, May and I. And May was like, one of y'all needs to submit a very silly hot take for me. And this is that silly hot take. Manga is awful, and it should be burned in the streets while we make s'mores and crown May as our leader over the flames. So I had to include it because it made me giggle. Obviously, it is not a serious take. This person does not feel that way. They just wanted to make us giggle on the live, and I felt like it was so silly, I had to share it. Are you ready for my hot takes? I don't think you're ready. Here we go. The people complaining about how much other people read are upset they can't find a way to manage their time better. They also think they have to make it a competition, and also at the same time invalidate anything you do read that they think doesn't count to make themselves feel better because they have bad time management. Next we have, if you think romance is cringe, I think you have a lot of unpacking to do on your misogyny that you've internalized, perhaps purity culture and other things, because romance exists in a wide array of options, from, you know, closed door, not that spicy, or things like you know, very on-page things and all that. And like, if you don't want super on-page scenes, that exists in the genre and there's still value there. But again, I think a lot of it comes down to internalized misogyny and like purity culture things. I think the Kindle Oasis is and always will be an inferior reading device compared to the Paperwhite. Even if you got a good one, there's a reason it was discontinued, and it was overpriced for what it was, and it is not that good of a device. Sorry, not sorry. Buttons are great, but we don't need buttons. I've had a Kindle since Kindle Keyboard. I've had buttons, I've not had buttons. It's fine to not have buttons. I promise you'll survive. Next, on the e-reader front, which I'm guilty of this, but I also do reviews and comparisons for y'all and will gleefully return a thing if I don't like it. You don't need every new e-reader. Seriously, if you're just one regular human, stop buying every e-reader. You don't need them all. It's okay. You know, I do think obviously there's value sometimes in us readers who do upgrade a little sooner than others to review and discuss why this device may or may not be worth it for you. But like, I've yet to review the Kindle Scribe because I'm not going to buy one. I didn't buy the new Paperwhite because my 11th gen works fine. I have not picked up a Books Palma or a palm-sized e-reader device because I have no purpose for one. I want one because I want to review it and I'm curious. And, you know, not all of, but, you know, one of my e-readers is like one I was gifted for a review. So like, and I wanted to try a non-Kindle based device. So like, that made sense. But if you're just a regular human, use your e-reader till it dies. That's way more sustainable. Oh, okay. Well, this one ties back into some of the other ones we talked about, which is the opinion of one does not equal the opinion of all. I feel like this is where miscommunication's overused plays in. Nobody needs a third act breakup in romances. This is the opinion of a few, a loud few. We do need third act breakups in some romances. If you build the story correctly and pace it correctly. Sometimes a third act breakup makes sense for the couple. Sometimes they have to break up to grow to be together. They have to figure their shit out sometimes. It's not always misplaced to have a third act breakup. And sometimes not having a third act breakup makes the story fall flat, or any conflict, because if there's no conflict, what's keeping them apart? I'm just saying, what's keeping them apart? Okay, 2 TikTok hot takes. If TikTok vanishes, publishing will not crumble. I know a lot of people feel like publishing is just going to fall apart without TikTok, and this is a video I actually have planned, but I'm still ruminating on thoughts and things, and you'll get it at some point. But now that the ban didn't really happen, we were only down for like 16 hours, I'm not there yet. And then on that same point, I think TikTok did both good and bad for publishing. We took a lot of steps forward on people picking up more books and things like that, and helping indie bookstores and all these things get more traffic. And I also think TikTok reversed a lot of progress we made pre-2020 in the romance genre and in the publishing world as a whole. So like there's that. Okay, and then last but not least, my hottest of hot takes is Colleen Hoover will never go away. I have been in the bookish space for a long time, like since I got my first Kindle, right? She comes back and rises to fame with every single new social media platform that arises. She gets popular. People buy her books. I suspect a lot of people don't read the books, but people buy her books, talk about her books. She comes back. She like reappears like Nessie in The Lock, right? Like there's been a spotting, and I guarantee it. Now that I pointed out the pattern, you will see this as well. Like I'm not the only one who notices this, and I think other people, as I say this, will be like, oh my God, you're right. But on every platform, she reappears like Nessie in The Lock, just to say hello, cause a little fray, and then vanish. I think TikTok has definitely been the roughest reappearance for her, because I think it's the most critique she's been exposed to. But also, that's just my hot take. And like I said, I think people buy her books and don't read them. Like general public people. They just own them and don't read them. Anyways, that is all of my hot takes. If you want to do round 2, I'll leave a form down below. If you want to put a hot take in, I might come back in a month or 2 with more. This is a long one, but I hope you enjoyed. If you did and you want to leave a hot take with your name attached, you can do so down below, or tell me what ones you agreed with. And if you don't do any of that, leave me fire emojis, because some of these were a lot hotter than I expected as far as takes go. And I agreed with a lot of them, so there's that. Anyways, I will have links to be my friend anywhere on the internet that I am, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions. We'll get away. This is what we waited for.